Burley Sew.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Burley Sew. I'm your host Purified, and today I've got an embroidery project. It's Fionna from Finn and Jake. Now this is a little bit different type of project. This is one that I've already completed, but I thought I'd go back through and show you how to adjust some of the parameters to the stitches, because you can do your design in Burley Sew, but you'll go back 3, 4, 5 times until it's right, adjusting different parts of the layout. It always seems for me that I can never get the stitching right the first time, so that's what I mean about going back 3 or 4 or 5 times to make sure that everything's right once you're stitching it out. It's a little tedious, but it's kind of fun, and the end result is pretty awesome. So what I just opened up Sophie Sew and I opened the Fionna project file that I had going, and what I'm going to do is go through each parts of this embroidery design and kind of show you how the settings are. Just so you know, to scroll you can hit Control and then scroll, and then it'll scroll in larger and smaller increments. Alright, so I want to go off of the object layout mode, which is the first button on the top crossbar, and click on design and edit mode. And now I can go over to each part of my design, whether it's an object outline or a fill region, and I can right click on it, and when you hover over the section you'll see that you've got the right thing. Like right here I've actually got an underline section, but you can hover over and see what you're clicking, and it's a right click. So I'm going to just go through and I'm going to right click on the separate pieces that make this the whole embroidery design, and just show you the different property settings that I had to adjust to get it to stitch out correctly. And now what I've been doing as I've been talking here is just kind of going through the project and clicking on the different parts, but I'll go into detail on each one and open up the properties box on each one as well to show you, like I said earlier, how I have the settings adjusted. Alright, so the first thing we're going to take a look at here is Fionna's ear, and we'll take a look at the outline properties. So just hover until it says outline and then right click. Then you're going to left click object properties, and then that box will pop up, and you can see I've got the stitch visible, and then you can see the type of stitch that I have, which is satin. And then now going over to the outline properties, the only thing that I've changed here out of all these is the upper height and the lower height. I believe the default value is 1.0, and I've changed the upper height to 0.5 and the lower height to 0.1. That'll give me the look that I want and the fit that I want. And when I say fit, I mean I don't want any spaces between my fill region and my outline. So let me show you what default looks like here real quick. And when I right click on the properties, I can go ahead and left click on the properties box and then show stitch, and this is the way it defaults, and it's quite large. So you're going to want to adjust that down to fit your project. So now what I'll do real quick just to show you is adjust the upper height and the lower height so you can see how it transforms. And now that matches what I used. So always keep that in mind, that you may have to do that with your stitches. Now to delete this, it's you have to have it as an object. I still have it in edit mode, so go up top here, go back to object select, right click it, make sure you're right on the line, and then you can delete it. Alright, so now let's look at the fill region of the ear, and I'll put it back into edit mode, and I've just basically used the straight up tatami. I have it visible so you can see it, and then tatami's the stitch, and I didn't change any of these attributes in here whatsoever. Sometimes I'll mess with pitch or the compensation if I need it to fit differently, but it works with this by just I adjusted the outline more than anything on this to get it to work. And then for the other ear, just copy it over. Now I'll take a look at the outline of her hat, and we'll go back in the properties and stitches visible, and this is a satin stitch, and I adjusted the upper height and the lower height to 0.1 for each. Alright, so we'll take a look at the inside of her hat now, and that stitch is visible as well, and it's satin, and the upper height is 0.1 and the lower height is 0.5. As I mentioned before, and I probably can't say it enough, if you ever have a gap in your fill with your outline, you can always adjust those heights to help fill that gap with a stitch and also help change your look. Now let's take a look at this fill region. And this fill region is the same as her ears. Basically, it's tatami and then the default settings. Nothing's been changed there. Alright, and then next we'll take a look at the fill region of her face, and this one I made some changes to. So it's a satin stitch, and if you look down, I've got program selected. It's a program stitch. So the region settings I didn't change; those are all default. But I went into program and I chose one of the stitch patterns, and it's the one that looks like the diamond. I'm not sure which one it's called, but that's how I got that look, so that'll give an interesting texture to her face. So next we'll take a look at her hair, and for that I chose a program stitch as well, and I left all these defaulted once again, so I didn't change anything here. But then I went in and I selected the wave pattern, and I believe I changed the rotation a little bit. You can change the rotation to get her hair to look different. I wanted it kind of going straight down, so that's at 3 degrees. And then as far as the outline on this, there is no stitch. I don't have any outline. It's just her hair. So this is all non-existent. And then her eyes are both satin stitches with default settings. And then the outlines of them are, there is no outline. So when you check the properties of this, I just left the satin stitch for the eyes. Alright, and finally her mouth, which is also a satin stitch. And that one has a height of an upper and lower both at 0.2. And once again, you know, when you're stitching this out, when I stitched it, I probably had to stitch this thing out 4 times just to get the mouth right, get it all right. But we'll pop it into 3D mode, and that kind of gives you an idea of what it should look like. So the first thing about 3D mode is it's strictly your viewing, and it's totally different from your stitch order. Your stitch order is how it's going to stitch out. This is just how it looks to you. But right now I'm going to break this group apart. I've got her all in one group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up top to the square with the arrows pointed in that says associate or disassociate objects in group, and I'm going to disassociate the objects in this group. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to select the editing mode, and now I can right click on this ear, for instance, And see how it's a little bit above the hair? I can move it back. I can move the position. So you'll look for outline position, or if it's a region, I believe it's region position. And now you can move it to back, and then you can see what it looks like here. I'll put it in this mode so you can see it better. It's just a little harder to select. You can do it in object mode, but it's easier in edit mode. And there's different options in either, so, but now I'm going to move it back, and now you can see that the gray fill region is on top of our outline stitch. So now we've got to move that back as well, and there you go. And like I said, this is just so it looks good in this 3D mode. Your stitch order is going to totally dictate, you know, if the hair goes on top of the face. Sometimes there's some overlap, and you just want to make sure that it's not too thick in certain areas. And then one last note, I didn't do it with this project, but there's the option of using complex holes for, say, the eyes or whatever. You can check out my other video on how to use a complex hole if you want to click here. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you some insight into Sophie Sew's height settings and whatnot. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. Leave your comments below. I'm Purified, and thanks for watching Burley Sew.